Hello, everybody. Welcome back to another episode of the Hail Mary. And today we have a awesome episode for you because I am beyond excited because it is almost college football season. The first game kicks off tomorrow if you're watching this today, which today is the 22nd. But I am beyond excited because this is the time of year where everybody has high expectations. Even if you are Nebraska, you can talk yourself that your team is winning the national championship, even though deep down in the back of your mind, you know your team absolutely stinks. But today, I am going to be breaking down my college football playoff bracket. We're not going to talk about every single team. I'm just going to talk about the 12 teams that I think are making the college football playoffs this year. So a few changes from last year. It's still 12 teams, which I like. It's straight seeding now. So if you remember last year, the highest conference champion winners, they were the ones that got a bye week going into the second round of the playoffs. This year, it is just straight seeding. So we'll say, for example, Texas wins the SEC and they barely beat Georgia. And Georgia would technically be the 3 seed. Georgia, in the scenario last year, wouldn't have gotten a bye week. They would have been slotted in at number 5 or number 6. But this year, if Georgia's number 3 ranked, even if they lose to Texas, they will be ranked number 3 and they will get a bye week. So winning your conference championship doesn't matter as much for playoff seeding as it did in the past year, which was the only year that we had this. So I am going to be breaking down today the 12 teams that I believe are going to make the playoffs. I'm going to break down each round. I'm going to give you my winner of the college football playoff. I'm going to let you know who's winning every division, who's winning their respective divisions. We're going to talk about all that today on the Hail Mary. So again, I already broke it down for you on how the playoff seeding is taking place. Today, whenever we are talking about the playoff teams, there is a metric created by Bill Conley that I use a lot, and it is called SP+. And this here, I got the quote right here. This measures how well a team plays on a per play basis, okay? It adjusts for opponent quality and tempo, combines offense and defense into one number. So it's more of a predictive model that tells us who is more likely going to win moving forward throughout a season. So yeah, SP Plus is basically per play efficiency adjusted for schedule. And people say that it is the single best model for predicting a team's season. And I'm going to be using that a bunch today when we're going through all these teams, because a lot of this I have like, we'll already talk about my number 1 team and you'll see. So my number 1 team right now that I think going into the college football playoff and I think is going to be ranked number 1, I think is going to be the Clemson Tigers. I think Clemson may go undefeated this year. They have one like big test, which is at the beginning of the year where they open up the schedule playing LSU. And I think Clemson, with everything that they're returning, because they lead the country in returning production this year, I think that they're going to come out of the gates hot and they're going to stay hot. They're going to win the ACC and they're going to be the number 1 seed going into the playoff. I think Clemson is going to be complete. Sorry, I have the hiccups. I think Clemson is going to be completely undefeated this year. Cade Klubnik has another year under his belt. He had his times where he struggled. He had his times where he was an absolute freaking baller. But I really like where Clemson is headed this year, and I think that they are going to be undefeated. They're going to wipe through the ACC. They're going to beat LSU to open up the year. They're going to go undefeated. They're going to be the number 1 seed in the college football playoffs. And yeah, I mean, they have a solid mix coming back this year. Again, leading the league in production that's returning. They have a great mix of blue chips. They have a great defensive continuity. Like Clemson is just, they're really freaking good. And spoiler alert, you'll see throughout the rest of this video, we're going to be hearing about Clemson a lot. A lot, a lot, a lot. So we'll move on to who I believe is going to be winning the Big Ten championship. And with that, also, sorry if you hear noises outside. I got a text message that there is an emergency sewer problem at a neighbor's house. So we have trucks going up and down the street. My street's blocked off. So if you hear big trucks going on, that's what's going on. Anyway, the team that I think is going to be winning the Big Ten this year, I think Ohio State will be winning the Big Ten. For their SP Plus, they have the #1 blue chip ratio coming into this season. They are absolutely elite. I mean, they obviously have, we could say, the best player probably in college football in Jeremiah Smith. You could argue they have the best defensive player in all of college football in Caleb Downs. They are loaded across the board. The biggest question for them is they just announced that Julian Sayin is going to be the starting quarterback, and Ohio State has a huge test. Week 1 in Columbus, which is good for them. They got to play Texas, and I think if they get through Texas, they have the best case overall to potentially run the table. Now, we know that the struggles that he has versus Michigan, he as in Ryan Day, but I believe that if they get through Texas, because I think that's their toughest test all year, other than Penn State, they do get Penn State at home. Penn State is looking good, but I think right now, if we're looking at both teams, Texas is in a better spot right now than Penn State. So that, as of right now, Texas is their biggest threat to the season, even though they could technically lose that game and still make it to the playoff because they can run the table in the Big Ten. But I still think that Ohio State may pull that game away just because it's at home. Arch Manning's first real test game, and then you have Julian Sayin this is going to be his first ever start in college football. But I think Ohio State gets through that, and yeah, they have pretty much the deepest roster throughout college football. The offensive talent is great. The defensive talent is there as well. They lost a lot last year, but they're returning one of the best starters in Caleb Downs. It's all going to come down to, will Ryan Day put Julian Sayin in the right position? Because last year, Ohio State, again, should have beat Michigan by 1,000. They really should. And Ryan Day tried to get cute and prove that he could run it down Michigan's throat. He played into Michigan's strengths. He was rent-free in their head. He was right into their hand. I think he doesn't do that again this year. I think Ohio State runs the table and goes undefeated this year, wins the Big Ten championship, and they are the #2 seed in college football. All right, my SEC champion this year, and this is where things are going to get a little bit, you know, people are going to be mad at me for this. People are going to say, well, what do you mean? What are you talking about? You don't know ball. Listen, I think Georgia is going to win the SEC. They have just elite depth across the board. They have a top 3 blue chip ratio for SP+. They are returning a juggernaut defense. It's Georgia. Listen, Georgia loses these 6'5", 265 offensive linemen, and they just reload every single year, and they're bringing in absolute dogs, no pun intended. Georgia is just that freaking good. The biggest question for them is, can Gunnar Stockton be better than Carson Beck, which I think he will be. Gunnar Stockton last year had to play in that game versus Notre Dame, and yeah, they lost, but that was a great test for him, and I think that with a whole offseason under his belt, he's going to be perfectly fine, and I think Georgia, I think, is going to be playing Texas twice this year. They already play them in the regular season. They also play them in the SEC championship game, in my opinion. You know, and I don't know if they're going to beat them both times. They probably will, but that's the biggest test as well for Georgia. And I think Georgia gets it done. They win the SEC. They're just absolutely loaded. Listen, I know a lot of people are probably right now like, what do you mean Texas is winning the SEC, you fucking dumbass? I like Georgia. I really like Georgia. They just reload talent every single year. Kirby Smart is an absolute dog, and I think Gunnar Stockton's going to be able to figure it out and get it done. Listen, they have a manageable non-con schedule. Their SEC slate, and like they're projected to win the SEC. I think if they get through Texas, that's all they really need to do. I think they're winning the SEC this year. They're going to be the number 3 seed in college football. Now, number 4. My number 4 team is a team that isn't in a conference, and I think it's Notre Dame. I believe that Notre Dame this year is going to run the table. Last year, they made it to the national championship, lost to Ohio State, but they have a good veteran core. They have great recruiting momentum. They have a great young head coach in Marcus Freeman. And with these new rules this year, because before the playoff rules were that it was only the highest, whatever's going on outside is loud as shit, so I'm sorry if you hear that. But last year it was you had to win your conference championship to get slated into a bye week. That's no more. So I think Notre Dame runs the table this year. They go undefeated. The reason why they'll be number 4 and not number 3, 2, or 1 is because they won't have that extra game because they're not in a conference championship game. So that's going to hurt them, It's just another opportunity for them to not lose, which I don't think hurts them, but it's going to slate them at number 4. I like where Notre Dame went last year. Again, I didn't think they were going to make it to the national championship. I didn't think they were going to be able to get through Penn State. They did it. They surprised me. And they looked amazing in that first drive versus Ohio State. They went down the field in 12 plays? It was like bang, 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 bang. They were in a 3rd and 5. They would get 6 yards. It was a great drive. And then they kind of stalled out from the rest of the game there. But I like Notre Dame this year to be the 4 seed. And yeah, they're going to get the final bye week in college football. All right. Now, this is the team that everybody was probably already commenting to me being like, you fucking idiot. Texas is going to win the SEC. I think Texas is going to be the number 5 seed this year. I think they could possibly win the regular season game versus Georgia. I think the deeper we get into the season, in injuries amount, I think that Georgia has the championship pedigree and caliber to overcome injuries more than Texas does. So, if anything, I think they split the season series, Georgia and Texas, but Texas wins earlier in the year, and the committee likes later wins. Then it's very stupid how the committee works sometimes. Texas could win the game 50-0, and then Georgia could win the SEC championship game by 1 point, and Georgia will be ranked ahead of it. It's very weird. That's just how the committee works. But Texas is obviously starting Arch Manning this year. That is the biggest story. They have premium recruiting, and their quarterback play this year, the ceiling for them. This team could win the national championship. If Arch Manning is everything that people are saying that he is, this team is winning the national championship. Do I personally believe that? I guess we'll see throughout the video. I do have them losing week 1 to Ohio State, but I don't see them getting past Georgia for the SEC. I think that as the season gets later on, Georgia is built a lot better than them to win the SEC, but I still think Texas has the potential to make another deep run in the playoffs. They made it to the semifinals last year, played Ohio State, lost to Ohio State. I like where Texas is heading. Do I think Texas is back? I don't think Texas is back. For me to say that Texas is back, they have to win a national championship. And I need to see Arch Manning in this first game because we've seen him play against some schlub teams, whatever. I want to see him in a true road environment, tough road test in Columbus. Yeah, it's a noon kickoff, which fuck you, Fox. Big noon kickoff is the dumbest shit of all time. This should be a fucking night game, but whatever. I digress. That first game versus Ohio State is going to really determine to me whether my rankings are right or wrong. If they beat Ohio State, I think that they could run the table then. Potential injuries and stuff, but they have a tough gauntlet in the SEC, but if they can get past Ohio State, it will boost my confidence in them to maybe put them at the 2 seed, maybe even the 1 seed. We will see, but I think Texas right now is going to be the 5 seed in college football. Moving on to our 6th seed, a team that every single year we hear, oh, this team is definitely winning the national championship. And then they beat up on nobody teams, and then they have to play a good team like Oregon or Ohio State, and they lose. And that is Penn State. I'm not a Penn State believer. No, I'm also not a Penn State fan. But am I telling you that Penn State is a bad team this year? Absolutely freaking not. They are returning some awesome talent. They have a dual-head threat at running back. Drew Aller is a good quarterback in certain situations. Sometimes he just makes the dumbest plays possible. He had 2 interceptions versus Notre Dame, pretty much lost them that game. So Penn State is good. Don't get me wrong. They are just not at that upper echelon of teams. And I think Penn State is going to lose 1 game this year, possibly 2, because Penn State, I think, could be in the Big Ten championship game as well. Penn State, luckily for them, they get Oregon at home. That's going to be their whiteout game. The issue for them is a team that they haven't beaten in 8 years is Ohio State, and they have to play Ohio State in Columbus. I think that's a loss on their resume. And I think, again, they have to play Ohio State in the Big Ten championship game, and they lose that game. Or if anything, Ohio State and Penn State do like Texas and Georgia said, they split. Penn State wins in the regular season. Ohio State wins in the Big Ten championship game. Either or, Penn State could either have 1 loss going into the championship game. Penn State could either be undefeated going into the championship game. I think they still lose that championship game to Ohio State. But Penn State, again, they're bringing back a lot of good talent. They have a good veteran quarterback. They have good line play. They have good running backs. Their receivers are where things get a little bit dicey. They don't have like that one guy, and that one guy they had last year was their tight end, Tyler Warren. He is now gone. And the reason why I have this team at number 6 and not winning the Big Ten and getting a bye week is just because of James Franklin. I don't think James Franklin can get it done. Until James Franklin proves he can get it done, I don't think he can get it done, if that makes complete sense to you. They have been the media darling all year. I don't see why. Listen, it just comes down to, what have you done for me lately? And Penn State has proven they cannot get it done. They had a fucking cakewalk in the playoffs last year until they faced a real team. They played SMU, they played Boise State, and then they played Notre Dame and they lost. So until Penn State proves they can get the big one done, I don't think that they are going to get the big one done. So I have Penn State at number 6 this year, and we'll see how far they get in my bracket for the college football playoff. Moving on to number 7, our quarterfinalist, Alabama. Alabama last year did not make the playoff. Everybody was mad because we had other teams in there that people thought, oh, Indiana didn't deserve it. Well, Alabama had 3 losses, so shut up. If you have 3 losses, unless the rest of college football absolutely implodes on itself, you should not be making the college football playoff. I'm sorry. You can't. But Alabama this year is returning a lot of elite talent. They are a talent juggernaut. They reload very well every single year. They have Ryan Williams, who is one of the best players in all of college football. Their defense every year is super stacked. Listen, I think this team is going to be very good throughout college football and then throughout the SEC. I just don't have them at the level right now of a Georgia and a Texas. I like what Kalen DeBoer's doing. I just think that you're never going to be able to recreate that magic that Nick Saban had. I think the media last year was putting too much stock in what Alabama was. Sorry. They were putting too much stock in what Alabama was in the past and not what they were. You know, they were a 3-loss team. If Indiana was a 3-loss team, they wouldn't have even been ranked. But everybody just looks at Alabama with twinkling, glowing eyes like, oh my God, we remember you. You were so good. Oh my God. Alabama last year was the hot girl who knew she was hot, and because of that, stopped taking care of herself and became 400 pounds. And then continually tried to tell people she was still hot. Does that make sense to you? That's what Alabama was. And they did not deserve to make the playoff, but I do think they make the playoff this year. They're going to drop a game. I think they are. They're not going to make it to the SEC championship game. I think they're going to end the year with one loss. I got to really break down their schedule to see where that's coming. I don't think they're going to run the table this year. I don't think they're going to make it even to the SEC championship game. But I like Alabama this year, just not at the level. Like, I think Josh Pate has them winning the national championship game. I don't see that personally, but Josh Pate is also our next college football savior, so I may have to readjust my rankings to agree with Josh Pate so he doesn't ban me from ever watching games anymore. Just kidding. Josh Pate, you're the man. All right, moving on to our next team. Okay, our number 8 team is a team that made the playoffs last year and got absolutely booty dick down by Ohio State, and that is Oregon. Oregon has a tough test this year playing against Penn State, and I think that's going to keep them out of the Big Ten championship game. I think they're going to lose to Penn State. Ohio State's either going to have one loss or no losses. Penn State's either going to have one loss or no loss. Oregon may also have one loss or no loss, but I think at the end of the day, it's going to be Penn State and Ohio State in the Big Ten championship game, which leaves Oregon out. And then the committee, again, loves Alabama. They're going to have Alabama ranked over Oregon. Oregon this year, they're bringing back a playmaker quarterback. They did lose Dylan Gabriel, but Oregon also always every year has good play in the trenches. They did lose Derek Harmon to the Pittsburgh Steelers throughout the draft, but Dan Lanning is good at reloading talent and bringing in elite guys. They're bringing in less production from last year than a team like Clemson, where Clemson is returning so many starters, but Dan Lanning is good at retooling, reloading up his teams. And this team, I think, has a very high ceiling this year, but their floor is like middle of the pack. I shouldn't even say middle of the pack. Their floor this year is 3rd in the Big Ten. So Ohio State, Penn State, Oregon. Their ceiling is they can win the Big Ten. So I think that they're going to be closer to the floor than they are the ceiling. I like Oregon, but losing all that production, they have a new quarterback that's going to be starting this year, but they also don't have the talent around them. So, like, Ohio State has Julian Sayin starting, but the talent around him is absurd that he just has to distribute the ball, while an Oregon quarterback kind of has to make more plays, if that makes sense to you, to win the tougher game for Oregon. Oregon's going to be able to beat up on the bottom feeders in the Big Ten. They'll be able to do that with their 3rd string quarterback. But I think when it comes to that game versus Penn State in Happy Valley, it's going to be their whiteout game. I think Penn State will get it done. The Oregon quarterback's going to get rattled. That's an environment that they haven't seen in a while. So, like, they've played in some loud stadiums, but Penn State at night, whiteout game is just a different environment, and that's going to be a test for Oregon. That's going to be tough for them. But I have Oregon as my number 8 team in college football going into the playoffs. All right, I'll go a little bit quicker with these because we're already at 24 minutes, but my number 9 team for college football this year is going to be LSU. Listen, I mean, they're good, but I think that a lot of people are overvaluing them. They have a very explosive offense, do not get me wrong. Their defense, though, they have a lot of question marks. They have good recruiting. Brian Kelly, remember Brian Kelly killed a kid, though. They do have a lot of upside, though, which makes them dangerous in the SEC. But I think they're going to lose that opening game to Clemson, and they're going to drop maybe one more throughout the season, maybe 2. But LSU will still be so dominant throughout the rest of the year that they are going to make the college football playoffs as the number 9 seed. Moving on to another ACC team. Who thought that this was only going to be a Big Ten and SEC bracket? I have Miami. Miami has a not that hard of a schedule this year. Their roster is deeper than most years. They have a good defense, which, listen, in the ACC, it's pretty much going to be Clemson and Miami this year. The ACC absolutely stinks. They have good depth. The model's backing them. They're bringing on Carson Beck, who some people think that he stinks. Some people think that he's good. I think he'll be fine in Miami. I think Miami will be a good team this year, not a great team like Clemson. They're not winning the ACC. They won't be able to beat a team like an LSU or an Oregon or even an Alabama, but I have them slated there at the number 10 seed. Moving on to number 11, which is our Big 12 champion. We're only going to have one Big 12 representative, and that is Kansas State. I have Kansas State winning the Big 12. They have a top 20 system in all of college football. They have a very good quarterback who can carry them. They do have less blue chip prospects than everybody else on this list. Not a lot of people are vying to go to Kansas State, but they still have a lot of cohesion, and they're going to get that auto bid technically because they're going to win the Big 12 and they have just experienced coaching. I like Kansas State. They're going to win the Big 12 this year. They're going to get slotted at number 11 because at number 12 is going to be our G5 representative. And this is a team that, I've been seeing a lot of Tulane. I've been seeing a lot of Boise State. I think that if UNLV can get through Boise State, first year for Dan Mullen as the UNLV coach, I think that they can do it, and they're going to be the G5 representative. They are one of the best G5 teams. Their schedule is manageable if they get through Boise State. I think that they're going to stack wins, and it's realistic for them to be the highest ranked G5 team, in my opinion. I like what they could do in the Mountain West. They have great continuity going in the Mountain West Conference. It's just their biggest test is Boise State. I think they can get it done versus Boise State, and I think they're going to be the G5 representative for college football. All right, this video is running a little bit long, but before we break down our bracket and our winner of the college football playoffs, I want to give a big shout out to Underdog, where if you use the code HMM and you sign up for Underdog and you play $5, you are going to get $50 instantly. Plus, you're going to get a free 0.5 pick, which is basically just a gimme pick. Listen, it's going to be something like Patrick Mahomes, higher than 0.5 passing yards. That means bro only needs to throw 1 yard to win that gimme pick. So sign up for Underdog, use the code HMM. You're going to get $50 when you play $5. Plus, you are going to get a free 0.5 gimme pick. Sorry, I got the hiccups. Here is our bracket, and here is who I believe is winning the college football playoffs, and we're going to run down this real quick. All right, so if you are going based off of the way that I was scheduling the bracket right now, my top 4 seeds in the teams that are getting a bye this year: Clemson, 1 seed; Ohio State, 2 seed; Georgia, 3 seed; Notre Dame is the 4 seed. So this would be our first round matchups. 12 versus 5. UNLV versus Texas. Texas wins that game. The talent gap is just absurd. I mean, Texas could win this game in their freaking sleep. We have 9 versus 8. LSU versus Oregon. Oregon would be favored in this game, but I think LSU is going to come out on top and end up beating Oregon, even though, listen, Austin Stadium is going to be loud. They're going to be rocking. I think LSU is going to be able to get it done. The SEC, they're just built to win games like this. And I think that Oregon having a new quarterback, I think even with LSU's weak defense this year, they're going to get it done. We have the 6 versus 11 game, Kansas State versus Penn State. Penn State just dominates them in the trenches. Not like they beat SMU last year, but kind of like how they beat Boise State last year, if that makes sense to you guys. And then we have, 11 versus 7? 11 versus 7. We have Alabama. Sorry, I'm reading my notes here. We have Miami at Alabama, and I think Alabama just dominates them. Moving on to the quarterfinals, we have Texas versus Notre Dame. This would be a toss-up, but I am actually going to give the edge to Texas. I think Texas gets it done versus Notre Dame. LSU versus Clemson. We have a rematch, I should say, of a week 1 game. Clemson gets it done. They're returning too much on the defensive and offensive side of the ball. They beat that volatile LSU defense. We have Penn State versus Georgia. Georgia, it's going to be trench warfare. Georgia gets it done. Georgia's depth, I think they beat Penn State. And we have Alabama versus Ohio State. This is a heavyweight fight, but I think Ohio State, their depth and their balance prevails. They can run the ball. They can throw the ball. They have, again, Ryan Williams versus Jeremiah Smith is must-watch television, but I have Ohio State beating Alabama. Moving on, we have our semifinals. It is Texas versus Clemson. Clemson wins, defensive experience on a neutral site. I like Arch Manning. I just think that Clemson is going to throw weird shit at him and get in his head and rattle him, and Clemson will be able to do enough to beat Texas. And then we have Georgia versus Ohio State. I have Ohio State making it past Georgia. Ohio State is number 1 in SP+. Their roster balance is going to get them to the final. Julian Sayin is going to have a whole year under his belt of lobbing the ball up to Max Clare and Jeremiah Smith, and he's going to be able to get Ohio State to the national championship. All right, and finally, our national champion. But before we break down who is winning the national championship, make sure you're hitting that subscribe button. Make sure you're hitting the bell notification if you are watching this on YouTube. Follow us on all of our short form platforms. We are on TikTok. We are on YouTube Shorts. We are on Facebook, Instagram, Snapchat. We are everywhere. Also, check out our weekly newsletter that comes out every Friday. We have one that's coming out today. You're going to be a little bit late for this, but that's okay. And, yeah, we also have a WordPress as well that we put out blogs. So if you want more content from Hail Mary Media, check out our Beehive newsletter. Follow us on all of our short form content. Here is who is winning the national championship. Clemson versus Ohio State, national championship. Clemson and Ohio State have had dogfights in the college football playoff. You know, that you had that 31-0 game where Clemson absolutely dominated Ohio State. You had that game, Trevor Lawrence versus Justin Fields, where there were a lot of weird calls in that game. Justin Fields ended up throwing an interception that sealed the game for Ohio State. And then a few years ago, Ohio State just absolutely freaking dummied Clemson. So this is like an anticipated rematch. Both of these teams are completely different from the last time they played each other. This is 2 blue chip franchises. We've seen matchups like this before. They're always entertaining, except that 31-0 game, but they're always fun to watch. Ohio State versus Clemson. Who is winning the national championship? Will Ohio State go back-to-back? Will Clemson get back in the championship column, where it's been years since they have won a national championship? I believe that through roster depth, through great wide receiver play, through having possibly the best defensive player in all of college football yet again, Ohio State will go back-to-back and win the national championship, beating Clemson in a very hard-fought game. This is not going to be just an absolute dummy game like it kind of was last year versus Notre Dame. This is going to be a back-and-forth affair, a defensive battle. Something has to give, and I think Ohio State, having the best receiver in college football, having the best defensive player in college football, they are going to get it done, and they are going to win back-to-back. They're going to win the national championship, beating Clemson, and yeah, it is going to be an amazing year for college football.